Hey, you ready, Don? That's 6. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The clock's scratched now. The clock. They used to say it matches my watch now.
That's right. Y'all don't have to wear this thing.
How'd they do?
Yeah. All good.
Welcome to the Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors meeting on April 16th, 2025. Start with pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Oh, yeah, you got yours on. I got mine. Look, man.
All right, no changes in the agenda.
No changes.
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hodge, seconded by Mr. Goode, all in favor.
Aye.
Chair votes aye 4-0. I think you said Mr. O'Brien's on his way.
He is on his way. He
Okay.
said he would be about 10 to 15 minutes.
As long as the gas can hold up.
No gas cans, just traffic.
Okay, administrators report.
Yep. Just got a few things to report this evening. So one, of course, he's not here. He's got a pre-happy birthday coming to him, Mr. O'Brien, on April 21st.
Yeah, he'll be an old timer. I get to call him old timer for 6 months.
I'll let you call him that.
Okay.
And how old will he be?
61.
Oh.
He's 6 months ahead of me.
Yeah.
So happy early birthday to him. A few new employees want to congratulate and introduce one. We got Alex Porter, planning in the zoning department. He's a planner GIS technician. He started April 7th. He's
Welcome.
actually here with us this evening.
Welcome.
So I want to
Glad to have
welcome
you.
Alex. Also Dorothy Cosner. She started in the E911 department as a communications officer. She also started April 7th. Want to welcome her to the county. Also, Miller Stoddard in the sheriff's office started as a part-time deputy sheriff. He started on April 10th. And then Robert Misker for the emergency services department as an EMT ALS provider. He also started on April 10th. I want to welcome them to the county. So Pleasant Grove Park and the Carriesbrook complex fencing. So the FY25 project has been completed. So it was approved for 180,000, and actually, through the bid process, the actual cost for all the fencing came in. I don't know if that includes that small modification, but anyway, it was under $125,000. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
it came in far below that. So all the fencing was replaced with new fence at the baseball and softball fields at Pleasant Grove Park and the Carriesbrook Sports Complex. The old fence there was at least 17 years old and started to be dangerous. And so again, now all the fields are regulation sizes with the fencing where it needs to be. And like I said, great to have that all replaced and done far under budget.
I went there today and it looks great.
Yeah.
And then softball program put turf, the infield had gotten too large.
Yeah, so that's what Mr. Spitzer said. FGSL also put in $5,600 in new sod to get the infield corrected kind of at the fields as well too. So everything's looking good. They also got some infield dirt and they're looking to do some of the same thing at Pleasant Grove Parks in the future. We also got the Pleasant Grove new message board sign up as well, which has been about a good long process in the making. So again, there's just, you can see some different variations. And so, the sign complies with county ordinances. It cannot be more than, it can't be like a flashing sign. It has to stay in place for 20 seconds and then it can transition. So Mr. Spitzer has just been kind of working with, just kind of programming some things in there. Again, the Easter egg hunt, putting the, date and time, some of our logos, any type of special events and things like that we have coming up. So like I said, it looks great. I'm glad to have that up and fully functional now. And then again, as I said, the Easter egg hunt is going to be at the Pleasant Grove House Museum lawn. It's free. It's ages 12 and younger. Again, it's this Saturday, April 19th at 10 a.m. arrive early and don't be late. If you're late, you're not gonna get any Easter eggs, because they will go quick. So again, the hunt ends when the last egg is found, and please bring your own baskets. Also, the following weekend, April 26th, Saturday, April 26th, we will have the Earth Day, hazardous waste collection. So hazardous waste collection is 10 to 2. Tire drop off is 9 to 11. Again, proof of Fluvanna County residency required. Please present valid ID. And again, arrive early. There's a limited collection capacity. When trucks are full, they will close, and recommending no more than 15 tires per resident, and all tires must be off rims. And then again, they're, collecting, safe disposal of tires, gasoline, paints, thinners, solvents. And if you have any questions, you can go to the Pleasant Grove, Fluvanna County Parks and Rec site and look at all that information. Spotlight on business, Fluvanna Family Chiropractic. They're having a ribbon cutting ceremony also on April 26th at 11 a.m. And that's right there, kind of in between the little strips under there by where Papa John's is on that side over there. So that's April 26th at 11 a.m. And finally, Governor Glenn Youngkin issued a proclamation recognizing April 13th through the 19th, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And then again, the proclamation was here on the governor's website, just kind of saying, whereas emergencies that require police, fire, and emergency medical services can occur at any time, and the health and safety of all Virginians is important to our great Commonwealth. Whereas an emergency occurs, the availability of 911 assistance is integral to the safety of each Virginian, and a prompt response is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who contact the Commonwealth's 911 centers. Whereas professional public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical link between the citizen or the victim and the public safety provider, often serving as the calm and guiding force in chaotic situations, ensuring that our communities remain protected and supported in times of crisis. And whereas public safety telecommunicators exhibit compassion, understanding, and professionalism as they respond to emergencies across the Commonwealth, and whereas it is important for the public to be aware of the responsibility to properly use E911 services by calling only in an emergency, thus increasing the efficiency of the system and improving the chances that lives will be saved. And whereas National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week offers an opportunity to recognize the dedication, skill, and tireless efforts of these individuals who ensure the safety and well-being of the community, often behind the scenes, and who serve at the very heartbeat of public safety. And again, this proclamation was entered by Governor Glenn Youngkin. I want to thank Director Grant's staff for sending this forward to recognize his staff too.
Thank you.
God bless y'all. Thank you for what you
Thank
do.
And just some upcoming meetings. So next week, April 23rd, we have a board supervisor special meeting. It's for the adoption of the FY26 budget and the calendar year 25 tax rate. And then May 7th, we have a 5 p.m. regular meeting. And then May 14th, we have a 6 p.m. regular meeting.
The second Wednesday,
I'm sorry.
do we go back? We don't go back in May to go into first and third,
May 21st.
May 21st.
Oh, yes, that is, yes.
All over that.
It's May 21st. Yes.
Y'all mark that down. I got a
17th,
typo.
yes. 17th and the 21st, yes. Yeah.
Look,
Thanks,
look.
sir. That's all I have.
Well, there is one other person in the county that had a birthday last week.
All right.
He's playing with his phone back there right now.
Oh.
And I believe the sheriff celebrated, I believe the sheriff celebrated birthday as well last week.
Happy birthday. All right, thank you, isn't it?
That's it.
All right, we'll have the first round of public comments. Anybody wishing to say anything, please address the board directly and keep it to 5 minutes. Anybody have anything you'd like to say?
Arena, 4541 Union Mills Road. I speak on the taxation again.
Can you lean that down a little bit?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the taxation in the county on the farm use, land use tax. I emailed information to all the board members and talked to most of you all. And I still have the same concerns. That hasn't changed. And I have asked to somehow have some town hall meetings because, you know, public comment doesn't allow for any discussion or any questioning or any way to be provided any answers or solutions for the process here in the county. And I'll let my husband speak to his conversations with Virginia Tech, but we know that the land use taxation here is not being audited. And the people that are taking part in having their land use in agricultural says that they're signing an affidavit saying they're farming, whatever they're farming, hay or corn or what have you, but they're not. So they're being given tax breaks to do that, to produce. And that is why land use was enacted, was to help the farmers produce crops. And so we in this county are not enforcing that at all. And there is no process for auditing and making sure that the people that are participating in signing these affidavits and agreements are actually doing what they say they're doing. So my question hasn't changed to the board is why the board, who is the governing party over the Commissioner of Revenue, to make sure that that is enforced and happen. So again, I think we need a public forum where people can find solutions and answers, which we cannot do during public comment. And I've sent very many emails back and forth and documentation that clearly, I think, outlines what the purpose of this land use is, whether it's agricultural, forestal, but the county could lower our tax rate probably to 40 cents per hundred. If we want it to be fair, and that is what our tax letters say, fair taxation, but we're not being fair. And we could lower the tax rate, and also by lowering the tax rate and being fair across the board to everyone, we could increase the amount of revenue coming into the county. We wouldn't need a mills tax. The things that need to be funded could be funded very easily. So I'm just, every time I come in here, I speak on it, and I will do that every opportunity because I feel like we need to have some sort of a means to find solutions and also to provide this information to all the taxpayers. So again, I do ask the board to consider having some sort of public forum where people can actually have discussions. And, you know, I mean, it's very difficult to do that here. And I know even with talking with some of you all, you're very good listeners, but you know, when someone says, I hear you, but that's all they do is they hear you and then they don't go any further than that, that's not an answer. And I feel like everyone here is elected to represent every taxpayer in this county fairly. And I know there are people here on the board, there are people here in the community that think I'm against the environment. Believe me, I am 100% for agricultural, for farm use. But if we're going to do it, let's be fair. And if you say to me that we don't care if they don't produce anything, I have been told that it's not for that purpose, then we are not following the laws and the procedures in any way. So I still ask the same question as the board, as the governing body, please look into why we are not following the law, because we're not. And I don't know why we have laws if we're not going to follow them. And everybody else gets penalized. I myself don't appreciate having to pay more taxes because I'm told people cannot afford the land that they have if they can't keep it in land use. That's not for me to have to pick up the difference so that they can have their land use.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Don Rayner, 3531 Union Mills. And to give a little bit more context to what Patty was talking about, I've spoken to, well, extensively to the lady at Virginia Tech, Jen Friedel, who runs and oversees the land use program and the celiac program for the state of Virginia. And where we are falling short is what is known as a process called revalidation. And so most counties, what they do is every year they make those applying for land use submit an affidavit along with financial details about why they're asking for land use and what the dollar amount of the product or products that they produce are. And if you don't fill out that form by a particular date, you fall off the land use rolls. And Ms. Friedel was actually kind of shocked when I gave her the numbers of the amount of people in our county that are receiving land use benefits. And so I think that's something that should legally be taken a very close look at, because all we're asking people to do is check off every year that you still want your land and land use, not producing those documents and documentation that legally say, I produced X amount of crops, here's what the crops were. And then, by audit, you got to be able to go back and match that up with the person's income tax at the state level and validate. That's what revalidation is. That you're validating that someone is producing a product and is has earned this tax credit that we're giving them, not just because you have X amount of land and you decide that you're going to fill out a form to get a 60% tax credit. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Good evening, James Schoenster, 843 Jefferson. And I just wanted to get up and let you guys know that I appreciate the work you've done on this budget season. I know it's not easy to weigh all the conflicting priorities with the limited resources we have in the county. And so as someone who's been watching closely to the work y'all been doing, I think a little bit of kudos has also been earned. A lot of folks I encourage to come and speak their minds and let the board know their thoughts and what issues are on their mind. And I also encourage them to give you guys credit when credit is due. And I can't promise everyone takes me up on either of those efforts. Some people probably don't give you the credit that you deserve. So I want to make sure that I say it very publicly that you guys are working hard and we appreciate the work you do for the county. I will leave with one other comment that I'll probably continue making until it's resolved, and that is that a lot of people who wish they could come and use public comments are unable to, and I would really encourage you to reinstate the virtual public comment, because those folks do want to come and let you know what they're thinking and what's on their mind, but are unable to for various reasons. So I'll continue speaking up for them until it's brought back up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Birthday boy here.
Here comes one now.
Coming to the podium.
Apologies, Mr. Chair. How you doing?
Excellent.
All right, seeing nobody else wishing to speak in public comment, we have appointments.
So we have one appointment needed for the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's an at-large position. So the term would begin 4/16/2025 and then December 31, 2029. And we have two applicants that have submitted for that position. Donald Renard and Patty Renard, and their applications are there. And if you want to have the applicants come and speak on behalf of why they want the position, you can certainly do so.
Would each of you like to come make your case of why you're the right one between the two of you? Rock, paper, scissors, anything?
I would like to,
One clarification, you're making a recommendation to the circuit court.
Thank you.
You're not approving, so
Yes.
basically I'll draft the petition. This is a recommendation to the circuit court.
I would like to move the Board of Supervisors approve the following appointment to the circuit court for the Board of Zoning Appeals at large position, Donald Raynard.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Sheridan on.
Sorry, well, it needs to be a recommend.
Right, I move that the Board of Supervisors recommend the following board commission or committee appointment, Board of Zoning Appeals at large position, Mr. Donald Raynard.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Sheridan, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. Congratulations. And thank you for serving. All right, well, presentation to Move Safely Blue Ridge Draft Safety Action Plan. I'm not gonna try to pronounce that last name.
Georgia.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Gurian Georgievsky. I'm a regional planner at the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. Next to me is Daniel McRae, part of the Move Safely Blue Ridge project team. I'm here tonight to present you the draft comprehensive safety action plan and to ask the board's adoption of the plan should it align with your expectations. Next slide, please. Today's presentation will include the background of the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, Fluvanna County's leadership commitment, the planning process, the emphasis areas in the high injury network, the public engagement, proposed solutions, and next steps. Next slide, please. Move Safely Blue Ridge is the region's plan to reduce road fatalities and serious injuries for all road users, regardless of their mode of transportation. In 2021, a bill was signed into law that became the bipartisan infrastructure law, which established the SS4A program, which supports the United States Department of Transportation National Roadway Safety Strategy and its vision of zero fatalities by 2050 using a safe system approach. Next slide, please. This slide highlights Fluvanna County's leadership commitment. From 2018 to 2022, 110 people were killed or seriously injured on the county's roadways. Fluvanna County's board recognized that and on February 7, 2024, adopted a resolution to reduce the total number of fatalities and serious injuries by half by 2045. I want to take a moment to thank the board for doing that commitment because this is a key step. The adoption of this plan is a key step in achieving that goal. It will position Fluvanna County into a situation where they can apply for implementation funding in future SS4A rounds. Next slide, please. Before I talk about the planning process, I want to mention just the project team and just to give kudos to the job that they have done on this, not just the planning process, but the entire work for this project plan. The project team consists of the working group members, which consists of county staff, VDOT and TJPDC. Speaking of the planning process, it's divided into 4 components and it's supported by 3 rounds of public engagement. Ultimately, the whole process serves as a foundation for development of the final comprehensive safety action plan. Next slide, please. I mentioned the period of 2018 to 2022. That is because our crash data for this project is for that period. It's structured around 13 identified emphasis areas, which are the key factors that contribute to fatalities and serious injuries. They use the multiple risk factors, and what that means is that if somebody was driving under the influence, was not wearing a seatbelt, and had a roadway departure, then they would be counted in all 3 categories. Ultimately, the emphasis areas were served the project team to identify the needs and solutions for the project. Next slide, please. To further refine our strategies, the project team developed the high injury network, which is a map of the highest concentration of crashes on a half-mile segment within the county. So for Fluvanna County, 74% of the crashes that resulted in fatalities, serious injuries, and minor injuries for the period of 2018 to 2022 occurred on just 11% of the roads.
And just a question is, I'm assuming this is the purple tier 1, is that the worst of the intersections?
Yes, those are the most severe.
Okay.
Next slide, please. A little bit about the public engagement. We had 3 rounds of public engagement in which we identified issues and opportunities. The second round, we collaborated on strategies. And the third round is currently in progress, which is the review of the draft safety action plan. For both rounds, we conducted a survey and went out to the public to ask for their feedback and share, so they can share their concerns, but also help us come up with potential solutions they think would be most valuable to the project. Next slide, please. For Fluvanna County, just want to say that we attended the Fluvanna County's Farmers Market in round 1, among many other pop-up events. In round 2, we attended the Fluvanna County Hardware Store and the Fluvanna County Public Library. We also hosted a discussion with the Virginia Farm Bureau with farmers and ranchers in the region, so they can share their concerns when it comes to transportation safety using farm vehicles. Next slide, please. This is the slide that's the most important. Just want to mention that the 5th project on this slide was not included in the comprehensive safety action plan that we provided to you. We regrouped with VDOT and Fluvanna County staff to further discuss this intersection. But I will get to it after I discuss the other ones. So just want to shift your attention to the slides, because these are the potential solutions that that the project team recommends. We have 4 out of 5 of these intersections were site visits for the project. So the project team, along with Fluvanna County staff, attended those site visits in person. On US 250 and Diamond Road and Oliver Creek Road intersection, the proposed solution would be to add a stop bar on Diamond Road, improve the visibility of the stop signs, and widen the road on 250 so we can add 2 turn lanes to that road. On South Boston Road, we recommend correcting the super elevation, adding a safety wedge on the outside of the curve, narrowing the approach on Broken Island Road to facilitate correction of the super elevation and allow more room. On Route 53, the potential solution would be an installation of a roundabout. On Route 53 and Martin Kings Road, again, we propose that a stop bar is added to Martin Kings Road, and then a dynamic intersection warning signage on Route 53. The last project, as I said, we regrouped to make sure that we acknowledge what has happened here a couple of weeks ago in the Dixie area. So we regrouped with VDOT and Fluvanna County staff to further discuss this specific intersection. It was part of the high injury network, but then we made the decision to add it in the comprehensive safety action plan. The potential solution here would be not really a short term, but less cost would be to add flashing signs and also advanced warning signs. But the long-term solution would be to install a roundabout on that intersection. Next slide, please. Another category of the proposed solution are the systemic improvements. So we have a few documented in this presentation, but there are over 30 in the comprehensive safety action plan. The systemic improvements are designs for the entire road network of the county, not necessarily specific to intersections. But the proposed solutions here are edge line treatment, installation of centerline rumble strips, curve delineation, and high friction surface treatment. All of these would help with roadway departures and driver awareness. Next slide, please. The final category is the policies and programs. This is the non-engineering potential solutions. There's a lot more documented in the comprehensive safety action plan, but a few solutions are here. We recommend farm educational campaigns, high saturation for police for impaired driving, and many others. Next slide, please. I mentioned that the adoption of this plan will position Fluvanna County to be able to apply for implementation funding in future rounds of the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. Currently, there is a FY25 notice of funding opportunity. And the deadline of that is June for applications. There's going to be another round after this for the FY26. But this adoption of this plan is not gonna it doesn't necessarily limit the county to Safe Streets and Roads for All. They could also be helping you with smart scale in the revenue sharing program. The project team also plans to do an annual update on the website, updating the crash data. That way we can stay in line with safety transportation trends. And further align our strategies. Next slide, please. Just want to say that through these processes and policies and guided by the safety action plan, the project team aims to create a safer and more efficient transportation network in Fluvanna County and across the region. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Anything? I don't have a question, but I do have one statement. His picture where he had the guardrail, something that has not been redone. Those bike lines have not been put back on that road when it was repaved. That's Venable Road at about the 1500 block. And they need to be put back on there because I think about it every day because it's 15 feet wide from the yellow line to the edge, but that's because of the 76 bike route. So we need to say something to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, did you say that you need action from the board on this? Because what was submitted was more of a presentation, and so formal action is needed. We could have that on another agenda.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
So that's kind of the plan because we have information that's on the presentation that's not in the comprehensive safety action plan. So we want to make sure that we take your feedback today as well and then add that to the plan.
Okay.
Can we go back to the slide where he had the 5 ones? Yeah, right there.
Sorry.
On the Broken Island Road, one of the things you said was add a safety wedge to the outside of the curb. What does that look like? Is it a curb in itself or?
I would defer to Danielle McCray to explain that more from engineering perspective.
It's more or less like infrastructure to prevent you when you're in the curve, prevent you from the super elevation is when you're in that curve and your vehicle is starting to like veer off into the curve. And so it's infrastructure to keep you in the travel lane.
But what does that infrastructure look like? Like how does that?
Is it a hard paved runoff that's angled
It's
upward?
more or less like concrete or maybe asphalt. It's not like a bigger median or anything. It's not something that would be vertical.
Yeah.
The pavement, it's in the pavement that would just be adjacent to the travel lane.
It sounds like the inside of the traffic circles, how they try
Yeah.
to do this to them to keep you off of the.
I kind of worry about the house there. They had several trees there that were protecting them. And over time, the cars have taken the trees out. And my fear is the next car that misses that corner at speed will go into that house.
And so when we reference the super elevation, it's because the vehicles are coming around that curve at such a high rate that they are like, in some regards, like losing control and departing the travel lane. And so the hope is that we would be able to correct that super elevation and not have such a embankment for the vehicles to get.
About 50% of them take it when it's wet and then go off. And as they're heading northbound around the corner, they tend to be farther along where it's wider. But the ones that go straight through at the house aren't even turning at all. They're literally going off the road.
They're just going on.
Yeah, so it's a 50-50 thing there.
I had a question. What is high friction surface treatment?
So that's the type of pavement that we would use. It's proven pavement installation that helps for keeping traction on a vehicle, to keep the vehicles in a lane. So when you see a lot of trends of crashes that are occurring under wet conditions, that high friction pavement helps to keep the vehicle and the pavement in contact.
I wonder if the high friction pavement is that new pavement that was laid near the bridge on, by the Crofton,
The crossing
Yeah, but
bridge.
that was laid on North Boston or South Boston.
yeah.
To me, that hillside sounds like that should have the high friction.
And that high friction pavement that's mentioned on the next slide, we have a list of candidate locations across the entire jurisdiction of where we would recommend installing that based off of historic crash patterns.
But I bet you they didn't go any farther than they did at Lake Monticello Road because that other section is going to be tore up in the next 12 months. So it'd make no sense putting a full treatment down other than a patch.
Safer road.
Yeah.
Other question?
Yeah, I was kind of, now that I understand that they're looking for more feedback than presenting or a little bit of both. I wasn't gonna bring this up, but I'll bring it up here. Doesn't need to be a ton of discussion about it. I just want to put it on your radar if the point here is for us to give some feedback and then you to bring back something later. Regarding the roundabout at 15 in East River Road, certainly have had a lot of discussions with people in the Fork Union area since that accident about a roundabout. There seems to be some support for that. Obviously, folks are, want some more immediate measures, which seems as though you have listed here. Some warning signs and flashers have been mentioned, also potentially rumble strips, because you get a lot of trucks that come through there and they hit those jail brakes. And I mean, if it's night, I'm down at the academy and I can hear those things hitting their jail brakes through the, echoing through there. But with regard to the roundabout, the one thing I wanted to bring up was there are some people who have brought to my attention some concerns with the historical marker or memorial in there. That is just something that as you bring things forward, and I'm sure that the roundabout will stay on there as a discussion piece, which it should, just make sure that it's included in there somewhere, that there is a historical park with meaning to people in there, and that should be, as we continue to talk about any solution there, whether it be these flashers or rumble strips or whatever have you, that it is understood that there is a park there that's important to a lot of people in the area.
And the nice thing that I've mentioned to VDOT is there's plenty of right of way in that whole area there just with. And so I would hope that there'd be a way to do whatever they need to do without maybe affecting that, but maybe they'll have to take that into further consideration.
I think the stone could be moved. It's not the relevance of exactly where it sits in there. I don't think there is any relevance, so it could be moved wherever they move the center of the.
And I just don't, it was brought to mind and if you live there, it's there, and that, there's always a Memorial Day ceremony there. And I'm not saying that park shouldn't be why we talk about, I'm just saying, as we continue to have these discussions about that, I don't want that to get lost in the shuffle.
Next year, it doesn't disappear.
Right.
That's a very important comment, and we actually were meeting with Fluvanna staff and VDOT yesterday, and that came up. So as this project, if it were to advance to design, that was one of the first considerations.
Okay.
Brought up.
Good.
I think there's plenty of room to preserve historic markings going forward.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to action matters. Item C, authorization to advertise a public hearing for the VDOT secondary 6-year plan. Mr. Thornton. I did not see him.
No, I do not see Mr. Thornton here, so,
We'll just put it on the next meeting.
The other gentleman presented at the last
Yeah,
meeting.
we
Yeah,
presented it, so I mean,
I-
the 6-year plan.
I would be
as far
happy
as the
making a
6-year
motion.
plan goes, so let me see here. This is an authorization to advertise, so I mean, I think the one thing is it would allow us to advertise for the 6-year plan. The only question that I had, that when I'm looking at this, I know there was a discussion that we had about Carey's Creek Road. And I don't see that on this document, and so I'm not sure. I wonder if the board can authorize the advertisement, because they have to have a public hearing, because they have to have this secondary 6-year plan approved by.
Yeah, I would have a hard time.
What's that?
In order to meet the public hearing.
Yeah.
Advertising deadlines or the advertising.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for, I mean, because there's, some houses going there and we've had,
Yeah, no,
I mean, if it's not on there, well, I mean, what's the consequences?
I
I think the bigger question is, what's the consequences if we don't approve the 6-year plan by their deadline?
And was that in I forget what it's called, the dirt roads turning back, what's that?
That was the secondary or something.
No, it's
You're talking about rural rustic?
rural rustic, that's it, rural rustic roads. I think that was one that he talked about.
Yeah.
That would possibly apply to that.
Does that need to be in the plan for it? I mean,
If there's some confusion, I guess what we could, if we did it next week, we would still, if you wanted to defer, because again, we've got a meeting next week to adopt the budget. We could potentially put this on next week and get any questions answered. And if we had the board approve the authorization next week with getting the questions answered, we would still be in line to have the public hearing at the second meeting in May in a timely fashion.
So let's just do it. Is
All
that
right.
good?
mhm.
That's such a lot of talking.
And are you gonna follow up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So do we need a motion to defer?
You can just do a motion first, that's fine.
I move that we defer this action item till next Wednesday, the 23rd.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Goode, all in favor? Chair votes aye, 5-0. Moving on to item D, Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation. Rocky Reed. Good evening.
Hello.
So I'm Rocky Reed. I'm the CPS Prevention and Protection Supervisor at Fluvanna County Department of Social Services. I also have some of my coworkers here with me today. Denai Booker, who is our family support worker, Samantha Ramirez, who's our in-home worker, Rosa Figueroa, who is the CPS investigator, and Shanton West, who is an in-home worker. So wanted to recognize those ladies because they do a lot of hard work.
Thank you, ladies.
Very difficult.
So this slide shows a CPS accountability of referrals for the fiscal year 23-24, and I just copied it straight from the state website. So as you can see, in Fluvanna County for during that time, there were 644 referrals that was made to our agencies. Referrals can be made directly to our office through the state hotline, through the mandated reporter portal. And of those 644 referrals, 144 was accepted. From those, there was 108 family assessments that was conducted. Family assessments can last up to 65 days, which involves the workers going to the home, the schools, conducting interviews, holding meetings. There were also 28 investigations that were conducted. Investigations take 45 days, but can be extended if they're worked along with law enforcement. Of those referrals that were made, 64 referrals that were reported or worked in conjunction with law enforcement. When we have a referral that could have some type of criminal activity, or it could be lead to criminal charges, we work in conjunction with the law enforcement and the Commonwealth attorneys, so our investigations are done together. Next slide. So at a prevention at a glance, because April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. For 2024, there were 18 in-home cases that were open. Of those, in those 18 cases, there were 341 in-home contacts. We have to conduct monthly in-person contacts for each family member in the home. So even though that says there's 341, those are only the mandated ones. That doesn't count phone calls, text messages, emails, meetings. there were 10 family support cases that were open. Family support had 171 in-person mandated contacts. And with family support cases, families can voluntarily open them with Department of Social Services if they need support with their children or families in finding services. Next slide. And the goal of the prevention services is to prevent occurrence or reoccurrence of child abuse and neglect from any caretaker and prevent out-of-home care. We don't want children going into foster care. Kids do better at home with their families or with family members. The benefit is to identify the problem and help seek a solution more quickly so that children are less at risk of being abused and neglected or being out of the home. It also maintains permanency for the family, strengthen the family so that they can increase their self-sufficiency. And we provide training and education of family to understand development behaviors, whatever the need may be that we can try to assist in finding a resource for them. Next slide. And some of those services support I have listed here. A big one that we use a lot with children and with parents is mentoring, because children do not come with manuals to parent them, and not everyone knows how to be a parent when they have a child. So there's one big service that we use here in Fluvanna County in our cases. The other things are we try to get them with financial assistance if it's from needing to have a dumpster to clean up a home that's not sanitary for the child, or it may be a referral for information or for counseling to help find other counselors that might be able to serve them here in Fluvanna County. So this is a list of the, but it's not everything we do, but a lot of what we do. So I want to invite you all to our Celebrating Children's Fair. It's a family fun indoor event. It's a resource fair to find out about some of those services that are provided in Fluvanna County. It's for all ages. We'll have a lot of activities there. It's all free. So it's on April 26th, from 10 to 2. I know there's a lot of other things going on in the county that day, but please stop by Carysbrook and get some of the resources, or at least go around and see the people that are providing resources here in the county. So if you suspect child abuse and neglect, please, as always, you're able to contact your local Department of Social Services. If it's after hours, you can call the sheriff's office, and we have a on-call worker 24 hours a day, holidays, everything. We're always there working. And you also have the state hotline. So I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for their support. And do anyone have any questions?
Oh, man, thanks for all you do.
All right. Thank you, Rocky.
Thank y'all.
And so in recognition of celebrating Children Month, there's a proclamation on the screen for you.
I move the Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors proclaim the month of April 2025 as Celebrating Children Month in Fluvanna County and observation of Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sherman, second by Mr. Hodge. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0.
Thank y'all.
We have 2 more items, 12 minutes until public hearing. So item E is authorization to advertise for a public hearing, enact code 20-13-1 to codify that there shall be a biennial reassessment. Mr. Whitman.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The section, Virginia Code Section 58.1-3253 authorizes the board to provide for biennial reassessments and equalization of assessments of all real estate in the county, and all real estate would be assessed as of January 1st. So the county started doing biennial reassessments in 2013 and has continued that practice since then. And this proposed amendment to the county code would codify that practice. So the proposed language would be adding section 20-13-1, and it states pursuant to the Virginia Code section, there shall be a biennial assessment, reassessment, and equalization of assessments of all real estate in the county, such real estate to be assessed as of January 1st. And if the board decided to change the assessment interval in the future, the code section could always be amended. Counties just have, if you're under 50,000, you have to do it at least every 6 years. But you can do it as often as every year. I have shared the ordinance with the Commissioner of Revenue and he has reviewed it. And so the public hearing would be May 21st, 2025. The ordinance will be effective immediately. The next reassessment would allow for real estate to be assessed as of January 1st, 2027. And right now, we're in the process of putting out a request for proposals for an assessment firm to do that reassessment for January 1st, 2027. We have to answer any questions.
Anything? All right. Motion?
I move that the Board of Supervisors advertise the amendments to the county code to enact section 20-13-1 for a public hearing to be held May 21st, 2025.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Goode, seconded by Mr. Sheridan. All in favor? Aye. Chair votes aye, pass 5-0. Moving on to item F, waiver to administer an existing split precinct for elections in 2025, Mr. Dahl.
Yep, so the Code of Virginia 24.2-307 requires the elimination of split precincts. However, Fluvanna has one split district in the Cunningham district near the town of Scottsville, House Districts 55 and 56. The Board of Supervisors, again, there is a need to try and eliminate that, but with how small the district is down there, it's near impossible to have a separate precinct for that. We've had to do this on I think when was the last time we had to do this? Last year, we had to do this on an annual basis. And so as long as we have the split precincts, we have to come forward and ask for this waiver to administer a split precinct. Yeah, so this waiver must be requested yearly as long as the split precinct exists. The Department of Election requires a copy of the minutes from a Board of Supervisors meeting in which the governing body formally requests a waiver until such time as redistricting can be completed. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, this is just more administrative because we do have a split precinct.
Of note, this was caused by the state drawing the
Yes.
line
Yeah.
incorrectly.
Yes.
Correct. And I believe it's only 50 people or less than 50
Less.
people that are
18.
affected.
It wasn't drawing the line correct. They chose to use the town of Scottsville's line to do that rather than the county boundary. It's the only note from the special masters in that memo, and it affected us. And there's about 19 people.
Yeah.
So if we were to do another precinct, we'd spend thousands of dollars to
For
have
19.
19 people be able to vote.
19
I knew it
eligible
was-
voters who
I knew it
may
was
not
under
vote.
50.
Any questions or anything?
Move that the Board of Supervisors adopt the resolution approving the request for waiver to administer a split precinct for elections held in 2025 and authorizing the general registrar to complete the procedures, including submission of requests for waiver on behalf of the board required to administer the Cunningham district and precinct as a split precinct for elections held in 2025.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Goode, seconded by Mr. Hodge. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. All right, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you got about, you got 7 minutes.
We did
You
it.
gotta do it now. We'll be back.
Oh, and
Oh, ready? It's all good.
No, y'all busted me.
You all ready? We're good.
Reconvene and public hearing for review by item G, amendment to the SUP 8305 park caretaker residence.
Yeah, so we discovered this property actually was sold on April first.
Wait, no, this is the SUP.
This is the SUP.
This is not the AFD.
Oh, okay.
AFD is the next one.
That's the next one.
I was about to say.
Would you like me to take
Twist
this
of
one?
events.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, that we are requesting or proposing an amendment to SUP 8305. This was awarded for a caretaker residence, the tax map running 53-5-1 and 53-5-2, located on Route 6, East River Road, near Homehead Circle, Route 624, a little less than 2 miles east of the Dixie intersection with US 15. Just a little bit of background. The board rezoned these subject properties from A1 to I1 in 1980. The case number is 80-03. And then approximately 3 years later, the board approved a special use permit for the placement of a mobile home as a caretaker residence on the properties. There is an automobile storage business on the properties, and that's what the caretaker's residence was for. At the time the SUP was awarded, the use was allowed in I1. And at the time, the properties were owned by Mr. Sidney Park. He has since passed, and the properties are now owned by Philip Park, his son. That's the approximate location right there, star near the Sixth Shield. And then the two parcels in question, the caretaker residence would go behind that building where Eric has the arrow. So the SUP goes with the properties and not with the owner. So after consulting with the county attorney, we decided to propose this amendment. This is a recent change to state law, which allows us to do this. The amendment would include a period of validity. We're proposing a 5-year term, subject to 5-year extensions by the board, as long as Philip Park owns the properties. And the intent here is to allow the SUP to expire once the properties are transferred to another party. This is the Code of Virginia section, which allows this. I'll just read it real short. Conditions may include the period. It's 15.2-2286.a, paragraph 3. Conditions may include the period of validity for a special exception or special use permit. However, in the case of a special exception or special use permit for residential projects, the period of validity shall be no less than 3 years. So we were requested at the March 19th board meeting to research the number of zoning permits that were issued for mobile homes in the county. Staff did research going back to 1974, and we found a total of 96. And you have the breakdown there on your screen. There are 10 for bona fide farm tenants, 24 for occupancy by individuals while constructing a permanent single-family dwelling on the property or reconstructing a single-family dwelling destroyed by a natural disaster, 57 for emergency medical or moral obligation, and 5 for which we don't know the reason. In the files, we cannot find anything to indicate a reason. I will add that of all those zoning permits issued, all but 4 did show expiration dates. So that's what we have as far as the research that was conducted. You can go ahead, Eric. This is just showing you the ad that ran in the Fluvanna Review, and there's the SUP highlighted there. I will take any questions the board may have.
Anybody like to speak, please keep your comments and questions directed to the board and you can find them. Seeing that? Nothing from the board in discussion? Right,
I move that the Board of Supervisors approve an amendment to SUP 8305 to include a period of validity of 5 years for the existing SUP with respect to tax map 53-5-1 and 53-5-2, subject to renewal by the board.
Motion made by Mr. Goode, second by Mr. O'Brien, all in favor?
Aye.
Item H, I think you have some change with that.
Yes, this is the other part public hearing. So basically, we determined this property was actually sold on April 1st. This is the property on 15. And so basically, we do have new owners now. So if the new owners desire to proceed with withdrawing, they would need to file and go through the application process. So staff will reach out to them and see if they desire to do such or if they want to stay in the AFD. But we're not only presenting on this tonight, but if there's anyone who came tonight to speak at the public hearing, they can still speak since it was properly advertised.
So if anybody'd like to speak on that particular item H, agricultural forestry district 2401. Please feel free to do so. Seeing none. So no motion.
No action.
We'll move on to item I, public hearing for deed of temporary construction easement, design 3-notch LLC, Mr. Wood.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So Zion 3-notch LLC needs a temporary construction easement on property owned by the county located off 250 and also known as tax map 5-7-98. So Zion 3-notch is developing the property on the corner of 250 and 15 for the Wawa convenience store. And Zion 3-notch would utilize the temporary construction easement to construct water and sewer facilities. And the county will be returned to its prior state after the facilities are constructed. A public hearing is required under section 15.2-1800 of the Virginia Code, where we can dedicate temporary construction easement. The public hearing has been properly advertised. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, we'll open a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak to the board, please do so and keep it 5 minutes. Gina?
Gotcha. I move the Board of Supervisors approve the deed of temporary construction easement to Zion 3-notch LLC and authorize the county administrator to sign the deed subject to approval as to form by the county attorney.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Secretary, second by Mr. Hodge, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. We're going to item J, fiscal year 2026 operating budget. Tax rates, capital improvement plan. Mr. Good.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here tonight to discuss the FY 26 CIP budget and tax rates for the public hearing. Next slide. The topics that will be covered tonight are the FY 26 through 30 capital improvement plan, the FY 26 operational budget, and FY 26 tax rates. Next slide. The total capital improvement plan for FY 26 through FY 2030 totaled 103.4 million. Next slide. Governmental capital and enterprise summary revenue and expenditures that were adopted for FY 25 total 107.5 million. And the proposed for FY 26 is 117.7 million, which is a total increase of 10.2 and an overall increase of 9.55% for FY 26. Next slide. The current and proposed tax rates for FY 25 are listed in the first column and the FY 26 proposed in the second, with the only change being the real property and mobile home at 0.750. Next slide. And just as a reminder, the FY 26 budget adoption will be held next Wednesday, April 23rd at 5:30 p.m. in the Morris Room. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
well, we've got the public hearing. Anybody have anything to say, please direct it to the board with 5 minutes.
No taker.
Going once. Go on. All right, any discussion?
Go first.
I think it's a good budget. We worked hard on it and looks like we're going to accomplish a lot of things with that budget, including funding not funding, but getting some new folks in for social services and the sheriff's office. Almost funding the schools to their full request, but not quite. And, I think given the constraints that we had, it's an excellent budget.
The only thing, again, there's really been no changes in the budget. The only thing that we've got an update on was regarding the CIP project. And so we're still working with VDOT and so We've gone through many iterations for the Fork Union Phase One project. If you remember, that was a small stretch of sidewalk renovation from about Academy to Pettit Foster. And so, you know, when we did this project, the streetscape project back in 2014 or 15, that little stretch of sidewalk as an ad alternate was $60,000. We decided not to move forward with it at the time. So through some, you know, cost estimates and stuff like that, we put in over $500,000 for the sidewalk project. We've been since working with VDOT on some cost estimates and what they're looking at. That project is going to probably be at least 4 times that amount, if not more than that. So I guess my question for the board is, again, we don't have to do anything tonight, but before we bring the budget back next week from the CIP project, do we want to keep that in there? Because again, there's only $500,000 in there, and I can tell you, and that's a split between state and local money from VDOT. I can tell you that from VDOT standpoint, the cost isn't going to come anywhere near close to $500,000. They're looking at least. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So the most recent number I have from VDOT is 3.7 million.
To run from Pettit Foster to Academy Lane. So why?
Yes, sir.
How?
So a couple of things going on. The first thing is just material costs have gone up. Second thing, right now, contractors are not hungry, so there's no incentive for them to keep their bids down. And third, it's federal money. It's the TA program, but the money comes from Federal Highway Administration. So you have some additional hoops to go through with environmental clearance, with right-of-way acquisition, and Davis-Bacon labor standards. That's federal labor standards, regulate construction.
One other thing they're looking at too, we were originally proposing crossing maybe a little more in front of Academy. I think just to the, I guess what would that be? Maybe the south or north of Pettit Foster. Well, they're showing now extending sidewalk on the Academy side of the road rather than just doing sidewalk on the other side of the road. So we're in conversations with them right now just because the costs have skyrocketed from what we originally, again, we bumped it up a lot from what the cost was going to be in 2014, just for like, you know, multiple inflation factors, but it's not even close to what we've even estimated at this point from what VDOT's saying. So again, just looking for some guidance from the board if you want to keep that into the CIP for fiscal year 26, or we could, you know, bump it out till, you know, the following year or.
And let me just add that if we do proceed with an application, it does have to be in the CIP. Transportation alternatives application cycles are every 2 years. So if we didn't apply this year, the next chance would be 2027.
I have no taste for $3.7 million.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, that's 3.2 addition.
I mean, obviously, I think I could, I mean, I'm dumbfounded, to be completely honest, at the cost and,
you know, I think so one, that is with it being a VDOT administered project.
Correct.
I would bet you, let's just say the county decided, not saying we want to do this, but if the county just took it on its own without having VDOT funds and having VDOT administer it, I bet you it would be a whole lot cheaper than $3.7 million.
to the county or altogether, 3.7.
Just the county, if the county paid for it all alone, our match was, I don't know, like I said.
So for the 3.7 million, a 20% match, just rough math here. Let's see, 200, 400, 600.
$750,000.
Yeah, so it might behoove us to at least reach out to some local contractors and get some quotes, assuming we don't use the federal funds and see it. There's a possibility at least that they might say we can do it for around what the county would be paying for match for the federal grant.
Yeah, just, you know, to be quite honest, it sucks, but it's not. And I think I could go back to people and say, this is why, I mean, to the tune of that much money. I would say, well, what do we have in there? 500,000?
Yeah.
Is there, it's in there. We were planning on having it there. I mean, there are some sections of that sidewalk that could be, repaired
The one thing I will say about that, so it is on VDOT's radar because, so with the sidewalks right now, because the sidewalks were, I guess, originally put in by VDOT's required to do maintenance, and they originally have planned in this springtime sometime to do sidewalk fixes, because again, there's some buckling sidewalks in some raised areas. They had it in their, on their kind of maintenance plan to do some fixes in there. And I think that they told me, because I requested for them to do like some edging of the sidewalks too, because, just over the years, in front of residences, if the grass is not edged, it's just kind of grown in and it's making what is maybe a sidewalk here to that wide. So they were supposed to have done some of that too. And so I think there's some leverage with the sidewalks being in their purview to kind of push them to have to do some of the fixes there right now.
Last thing I'll say is if there's anything that in that area that potentially we could look at doing to, if we've got to move the money out, I mean, don't do something just for the sake of doing it, but if there's some things that we can look at in that area that the county can put funds or some of that towards to bring something to that area with the CIP that, they're obviously not going to get, I don't think we have the support for the money for the sidewalk, but maybe between now and next week, if there's something that we could look at doing, again, I don't want to do it for the sake of doing it. At minimum, it could at least jog a conversation about things moving forward.
Again, what we'll do, we'll leave it in there right now. We'll see what we can come up with, if there's any alternatives or anything like that. Like I said, Mr. Fortune's been working with VDOT the last couple of days, trying to get some updates on this and kind of like really hammering the cost. But I mean, just some of their ballparks is way out of the ballpark. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Public hearing, yeah, you did. Yep, and no one came forward. There's no motion again, it's just public hearing, the budget,
We did that last
for
week.
adoptions next week.
Item K, CTA 2409, amendments to the Fluvanna County zoning ordinances amending 19-2-1 to clarify that no more than 5 lots may be created from the parent tract using minor subdivision approval process, regardless of whether lots are created at one time or over an extended period of time.
Mr. Ford,
Okay.
enter your side.
Yes, and we'll be able to do these two together, or I can do them one after the other and then do the motions afterwards if that's okay. We have two ZTAs for public hearings that are related. First is ZTA 2409, and that affects the subdivision ordinance. And we're proposing to amend the subdivision ordinance by changing section 19-2-1. Again, clarify that no more than 5 lots may be created from the parent tract using the minor subdivision approval process, regardless of whether the lots are created at one time or over an extended period. And the reasoning is the code as currently constructed allows parcels to be repeatedly re-subdivided every 5 years through the minor subdivision process. You may be aware minor subdivisions are allowed by right in A1. Major subdivisions are currently not. We did allow rural clusters, but that was removed some time ago. So currently, the way it's constructed, you could divide 5 lots, come back 5 years later, do it again, in effect, creating major subdivisions. It's basically a workaround, and that's what this proposed zoning text amendment seeks to remove. And this is the proposed amendment. I will direct your attention to the second page, and I'll just give you the changes here. We're changing the definition of a major subdivision to removing some words. The new definition would read a division of a parent tract of land into 6 or more lots and not a family subdivision. A subdivision shall be deemed to be a major subdivision if the parent tract from which the subdivision is divided was divided into an aggregate of 6 or more lots or divided in such a way as to create a new public or central water or sewer system on 1 or more public streets. And then changing the definition of minor subdivision to read any division of a parent tract of land creating fewer than 6 lots and not a family subdivision. No more than 5 lots may be created out of one parent tract using the minor subdivision plat approval process, regardless of whether the lots are created at one time or over an extended period of time. And we're also adding a definition for parent tract to read a separate lot, tract, or parcel of land conveyed by deed, devised by will, or passing pursuant to the laws of descent and distribution, the boundaries of which are shown by a plat or described by Metzen bounds and recorded in the clerk's office of the Fluvanna County, Virginia, on or before April 16th, 2025. For the purposes of this definition, the Fluvanna County tax map may be used to identify parent tracts. If a parcel is divided into lots, parcels, or tracts, all of which are greater than or equal to 60 acres in area, or all of which have greater than or equal to 1,500 feet of frontage on a highway maintained by the Virginia Department of Transportation, the date for determining the parent tract shall be the date of the recordation of that plat. So those are the changes we are proposing for ZTA 2409. And that is again to the subdivision ordinance. And I'll take any questions the board may have on that one.
So can you cite some examples where we've had a subdivision subdivided every 5 years that's resulted in a major?
Well, I can give you an example where I had to kick it back. I can't recall the exact location, but the developer created 4 lots out of a parent tract. And less than a year later came back and wanted to create 4 more lots. And I had to reject that because they're basically creating a major subdivision.
That there was a 5-year period. How could he?
Right, they didn't wait the 5 years. That's why I kicked it back.
Right, but I mean, if they had waited 5 years.
And if they had waited 5 years, I would have had to approve it.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's the only example you have.
Well, it's the only one it's the only one that comes to mind since I've been here. I think there were others.
There were other examples, and this one, you would still be allowed to do family subdivisions.
Mhm.
Like even if you divide it into 5 parcels, you could still do a family subdivision as long as it meets the minimum 2 acre.
Right.
Line.
But you gotta have a big family for that.
We had a gentleman come in the other day and he had 4 sons. And he said he had a lot more children than that, but he was just doing 4 lots at this point. So there are people that.
No, I'm not saying there aren't, I'm just saying that.
But no, we had an example the other day, someone came in and like.
So you have seen. The county has seen.
Well, and looking at other counties also, so we looked at Albemarle County, Greene County, Nelson County, Goochland County. They have the parent tract parcel language. And so basically, it's a way so you're not creating major subdivisions without putting in adequate roads, public roads. And so this is kind of a workaround to create a major subdivision. Because if you just wait 5 years, you can do 5 more lots, then 5 more lots, and you're just using private roads instead of public roads to create the subdivision. So it's more, we had heard the concern and we shared that at the planning commission at a work session. And they thought basically if someone wanted to have 15, 20 lots, then they should do a rezone. And rezone, to R1, R2, R3, R4.
But in order to do that, they need to have public utilities, right?
No, R4 you don't have to. R4 you can have well and septic.
You can have well.
But for R1, R2, R3, you need central water.
Any other question?
And the R4, why is it R1, 2, and 3 don't require that versus R4?
I'm not really sure the legislative intent, but R4, you have different minimum lot size for well and septic versus water and sewer, and you have different road frontage requirements. So R4 allows both options. You just have different minimum lot size and road frontage, depending on if you have central water, well and septic. But I'm not sure why the board, back when they developed the different districts, why they went that route.
So we removed the cluster subdivision, as you pointed out, and then a few weeks ago, we went from 2 acres to 5 acres, correct? Isn't that what we did? We basically said that you couldn't subdivide unless it was 5 acres. Is that not what we did?
I don't remember that.
No, what was a 5 acre change then? I thought there was a 5 acre change.
You're thinking at least 5 condition rights?
Maybe that was it. I don't know. I thought for some reason it was 5 acres, but
I mean,
I think another,
Madison has that.
somebody else, yeah.
okay, so you can still do 2 acres
In A1, yeah.
in A1
Mhm.
as under this proposed change.
You could do
But you can do it only up to 5 pieces.
correct.
So if I have 100 acres, previously I was able to divide that into, under cluster subdivision,
Mhm.
50 homes on 25 of the acres, and the other 75 would be on that.
Correct.
And then, now I have that same thing and I can only put 5 homes on it.
You can divide, as it stands right now,
As
you
it-
can divide that 100 acres into 5 20-acre lots.
Or you could do a 60-acre lot, and then you could do 5 8-acre lots. So you do
Right.
6 lots maximum.
Right,
By right.
right, without going through the process. But, and this isn't really a problem that we have right now. But we're still taking away kind of a right that somebody has. I mean, I just find that a little.
Well, I think that if there's this many municipalities making these types of changes. There certainly are instances where there's reason for concern.
But they have different infrastructures than we do, right? Like, I mean, right now, the only sort of public infrastructure that we have is around the lake,
Understood.
right?
I would also like to point out, it's not in the slide presentation, but there's a court case from 2012 from Orange County. It was in the circuit, heard in the circuit court, and the court determined, Orange County had a similar 5-year provision, which the circuit court determined was an overreach of local authority per the Dillon rule.
It's basically said you can require phasing of subdivisions.
Uh-huh.
So that was the other reason that I mentioned, sorry, I forgot to mention that I mentioned to the planning commission why they should consider removing the 5-year requirement. Even though it's a circuit court and not the Virginia Supreme Court. And so it's, persuasive instead of mandatory authority. Still, it's concerning the circuit court ruled that the provision we have violated Dillon rule.
So, and the other question I have is, I mean, outside of advertising this on the inside the paper, I mean, if I owned a large piece of property and I found out that this change had been made, and depending on what I bought that property for, I might be pretty upset, right? So how did we advertise this? How did we get the word out to landowners that this may be something that's going to impact them?
And it was advertised in the paper. We had it on the website. I'm not sure where else we had it.
It was in the Fluvanna review at least for each of these ordinances twice. And so it's been in the paper at least 6 times. And then it was on the website. We discussed it at 2 different planning commission meetings. So we had 2 different meetings where we discussed it in work sessions, then in advertisements, and twice for public hearings.
And and both ZTA 2409 and 2411 are very
related.
similar. Yeah.
I understand that. It feels to me like we continue to take away the rights of the property owners here for problems that don't exist. That's the way I perceive it,
Again, they can go through the process and the examples we're talking about, you could have citizens that have no input into whether a subdivision comes into their community, and clearly commonly we believe that the citizens ought to have some input. And so
except that we really didn't have any examples to say where this was a problem, right? So, I mean, if it was a problem, then I could see it, but we seem to be finding solutions for problems that we don't have. So just to me, it's
To Mr. O'Brien's point, so let me get this clear. If a landowner, his example owns 100 acres, if he wants to break that into 50 2-acre parcels or thereabouts, or say 40, and put the infrastructure in, he could put an application in for rezoning to R4 and do that, correct?
Correct.
That sounds right, yeah. Of course, if he has a central water and sewer, just to
He could-
clarify, so for R4, correct me if this is wrong, the 2-acre, the 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres is only if you have well and septic. If you have a central water and sewer, you're allowed a greater, I believe, 2.9 per acre.
You have more density.
Well, you have more
Yeah.
density if you have central water and sewer.
And what grounds would the board have to either approve or deny, particularly the instance of deny? So we're denying him his landowner rights. Or would that almost be, we pretty much have to approve it?
No, I mean, you would have your community meetings, and if there's concerns that are brought up at the community meetings, there's valid reasons, public safety, welfare reasons why you could deny rezoning. Just depends on where it's located, if it's located, partially on wetlands and river, you'd have to know the context and how much public outcry there is.
But there would have to be grounds for it, though.
Sure, you have to have reasons, like if you're denying rezoning, you have to list the reasons as part of your motion, or at least needs to be within your discussion.
I mean, as an example, and I think part of this all got prompted by Briary Creek. you know, where there's gonna be 70 homes, I think is what they're gonna put in there. If I was that landowner and I'd had bought and, you know, I know that he intended on doing things with that land that he wasn't able to do and then moved to doing this. He is essentially now taken that value of the land and reduced it significantly. In fact, he's got the other 232 acres for sale for $1 million, which seems really cheap when you look at that property. So, you know, my suspicion is that he's getting a lot more money for the 100 and some odd acres that he's converting over than he is for the 232 acres that he's not. And again, we removed the cluster subdivision, so we've already taken that out. We have a, you know, really a shortage of housing throughout this area, and we're continuing to make things more difficult for people to be able to use the land the way they see fit.
Just one thing about that one, I mean, that one that one still made it in before the.
Oh, I know it
Yeah,
did. I know it did.
And the property is sold since then.
Yeah, the 232 acres is,
The Fluvanna side and the
The Flu-
Albemarle side sold.
yeah, I saw that it was pending for the 232 acres. I don't know.
So, Mr. Fortune, would it not be better planning practice? And particularly in your rural residential and not rural residential, rural preservation, to have the major subdivision by SUP versus rezoning into an R and putting that in the rural preservation areas?
So, I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, the SUP would give the chance for the public to give input and a chance for the board to have say in it.
The only thing that the rezoning does is it allows for conditions of property.
That's true.
But we're not I mean, it depends on the situation. Now, we're not talking about a lot of you know, I think we haven't had a lot of, you know, R4 planned communities that have been proposed in this county in quite some time, right?
Because they used that condition that we removed.
So, okay, for what it's worth, we are actually working with the planning commission on an alternative to the rural clusters. Maybe tweaking some of the residential zoning, but that's still in the works. And I can't promise how soon we'll have something.
Yeah, we presented to the planning commission a few months back. Maybe it was somewhere.
I think, yeah.
About different options. You could have, you know, you could change the 60 acre by right down to, you know, 10 or 20 acres. It used to be 20 acres. You know, you could have major subdivisions by SUP. You could have rural clusters by SUP. There's a lot of different options. You could, you know, the R1, R2, R3, you could change those districts to kind of allow some of the rural cluster type options within those districts. So we talked about the whole gambit of options, and so there are other options out there. The issue with this 5-year phasing is we had a developer who said basically, okay, well, I just subdivided it. I want to subdivide it again. And Mr. Fortune said, no. He said, well, you're violating this code in this case of Orange County. And so basically, we said, well, we're actually looking at taking that to the board. So theoretically, if we decide not to proceed with this, we would at least need to remove the 5-year phasing language. If we did that, then you'd be able to subdivide that parcel over and over as many times as you want. You don't have to wait the 5 years.
I'm sorry. So you're saying that and maybe I missed that. You're saying that our language for 5 years is not in compliance right now?
Correct. The case in Orange County said that violates Dillon rule. Just like I was saying, that's persuasive, not mandatory authority. It's not the Supreme Court. But still, an attorney's not cite that as authority when they file an action in court and cite you're violating Dillon rule with your current language.
Wow.
So that's why we brought it to the planning commission as a concern and something we need to consider. So that's why a lot of counties went to the parent tract date, right? So you have so many division rights based on the parent tract date. So if you didn't want to do that, then basically you'd be removing the 5-year language. You could just redivide those parcels over and over as long as you met the 2 acre minimum, which we didn't think that was good planning as well, because you have to concern about all these private roads developing.
100 wells.
So that's what we thought this was the better alternative, was to do the parent parcel language. and look at other options for major subdivisions.
When Garden. Village Garden is came up a few years ago. I think it was 300 and some homes that was looked at being put back there. Right on the other side of the road from our only retirement community. And then my understanding was that developer had gotten purchase rights on the property catty corner behind the karate studio and was going to be able to buy right to do quite a number of homes there. So not only will we end up with 300 some homes right beside Nahua Village, but then right across the street, there's a number, I think I remember, I could be wrong, somewhere around 180 acres. And it's ludicrous to me that the people over here or on that property, you got to get approval and it has to go through public hearing. But the same developer was going to go catty corner from that and develop 180 acres and do it by right. It's just, it's not sensible to me that that community wouldn't have a voice in saying on one corner, but they do on the corner right across.
Well, I mean, without the 5-year rule, it is problematic. I would agree with that. I mean, I think, generally a developer is not looking down the road and saying, I'm gonna stage this out for 25 years. They're usually kind of in and out on something like that. So, it's not worth their time and energy. It costs a lot more money to do that in that process. So I think it's, again, and there's nothing in between this, basically, is what you're saying right now. It hasn't been appealed and nobody else is looking at this.
Right, as far as we're aware, it's not been appealed.
My understanding is Orange County just removed it from their ordinance back in 2012. They won appeal to the Supreme, or perhaps the Supreme didn't grant the petition for appeal, but it didn't go to the Supreme Court.
Questions or thoughts?
Well,
All right. With that, we will open a public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the board, please keep it to 5 minutes and direct it to the board. Anyway. All right, seeing none, bring it back to the board for discussion.
Seems to me, I mean, we've got the decision on the one hand of allowing it to happen where it can turn into necessarily a major subdivision unintentionally, perhaps, or we've got the opportunity to make sure that that doesn't happen. It seems to me that when you've got one on one hand and one on the other, it seems sense that, this board several months ago made a decisions and said that, again, I realized that it was not a majority, a unanimous decision, excuse me. But the majority of the board did say that we had concerns about residential development occurring without the board or the public being able to provide feedback for the impact that that would have on those communities or perhaps the tax base and things like that. It seems to me that the option of allowing this to happen runaway would be antithetical to the decisions and the reasons that we made the decisions several months ago. Those are my thoughts.
I think that's a fair point. I just think that, we really haven't had these examples happen, from that perspective. And so, there is a recognized problem nationally that, localities are being very restrictive in growth and that is in turn impacting the affordability of homes. And, I'm reticent to vote on this. I understand the reasoning for it, but I'm reticent to vote for it. Because, there haven't been major examples of this. Now, maybe we have this one developer and maybe it is a loophole. And, that is, I'm surprised that hasn't been used in the past, if that was the case. That's just what surprises me is this hasn't been really used in that format. And again, maybe it's because developers come in and they really want to knock it out in that 2 or 3 year period and they don't want to come back for little chunks at a time, in order to do that. And if we're basically saying, you can only divide this 100 acres into, 5 pieces and you can't put but one home on each of those pieces, right? I mean, that's pretty egregious to anybody who has a large piece of property. I really struggle with that.
Talking about, whether we've experienced it or not, I think it's the essence of the word planning.
Well, I mean, the county's been around a long time and, you know, what has been the growth of newly approved homes in the last 2 years here, Mr. Fortune?
It's been quite a few homes sites popping up.
No, but I'm still a question. I think it
I
was
mean,
sub 100 or right around 100 per year or something like that is what I thought.
yeah, I think we were, I want to say last 2, 3 years, we were maybe about 1% a year.
Yeah.
Or it might have been the last.
What's I want to clarify the family portion that came up. Could you explain how that plays a role here?
So basically, family subdivisions would not be affected. So
What defines that?
basically, if you're giving a parcel to your spouse, to your son, daughter, we have a definition of immediate family. And so basically, if, let's say I have, 20 acres and I want to divide it into 5 parcels of, 4 acres, I could still then divide one of those into another, 2 acre parcels to give one to like my son. So it's
And
not,
that has to be for immediate family members or?
Correct.
Okay, so it couldn't be for like grandchildren or things like that.
correct. I don't think grandchildren falls under the definition.
But could you not pass it to your son who has 2 children, then he subdivided?
You can only do 1 lot per child, so you can't give like multiple lots.
But I could divide 2 4-acre lots and give them to my sons. And then they could turn around and divide them into 2-acre lots for each of their 2 children.
As long as you have the minimum 2 acres and then you have the minimum private easement access.
So it doesn't prevent a father from, or a mother from passing it on to their children who can then subdivide it again.
And then, you know, the whole idea of roads and so on, that's an important idea as well too, because obviously it costs money to build those roads as well too. So, you know, I think that kind of goes back to why this isn't used. I mean, I get the loophole, but why is it not used? And I'm just curious that we haven't seen this problem before.
No, I mean, we had cluster subdivisions available and we
Right.
got 25 cluster subdivisions.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to do that because they had cluster.
I was just going to add to the family subdivision, there is a caveat that it has to stay with the family member for a set period of time before it can be sold. I want to say it's
5
3
years?
I believe it is 3
Yeah, I
years.
believe it's 3.
And just,
And once you don't have to wait after you buy the property to do a family subdivision, you can do it the next day. There's not a waiting period. So it looks like family subdivision is legally defined offspring, spouse, sibling, it is grandchild, grandparent, or parent. So it extends as far as grandchild.
So family, okay, immediate family extends down to grandchild. Okay.
there was a question about homes built between
You got it right here.
2021 to current. It was 589 homes, so that average.
It's in the back of our
117
packet.
a year,
How many?
117 a year.
117 per year.
178, 164, 93, 125, and then this year's 29 thus far.
Yeah.
But that's 3 months.
And now the gentleman that we were speaking about earlier, actually, he won't have to wait the full 5 years if this is passed tonight. Now he can go and submit that subdivision plat. Because it's basically the parent parcel as it exists today. So that's the one who will actually benefit from this change. He won't have to wait the full 5 years.
But he can only subdivide it 5 more times from there.
But he can only put one house on for every, you know, however tract he subdivides it in. So I don't know the size of this particular tract. So what would be, how big is this tract and what would be that impact anyhow?
They weren't huge lots. Yeah,
I mean, how big is the total amount of the lot?
about 15 to 20 acres.
So the most he could build anyhow under the current formula would be 10 homes to begin with, right?
Like he had a original parcel, he's already divided it once
Right.
into 5 lots. Now he's dividing one of those parcels into 5 additional
But it was
lots.
10 acres to start with. So at best it was,
I'd have to look at, it was like it's August or something when we looked.
that's right, 20 acres to start with, you said, right? 20 acres. So, yeah, at best it would be 10 homes.
Yeah, I think I'm in favor of good planning, but also leaving a loophole that can put you in violation or jeopardy of the Dillon rule. I think it needs to be closed. We just don't need to be wrapped up in any lawsuits.
Well, again, we haven't had them, so just.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I will. I move that the Board of Supervisors approve 2411, an ordinance to amend and.
Don't we have to
reordain-
open the public hearing?
We did and we closed it.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, well, this was Board of Supervisors discussion.
Okay.
And reordain the code of the County of Fluvanna, Virginia by amending 19-2-1 to clarify that no more than 5 lots may be created from a parent tract using the minor subdivision approval process, regardless of whether the lots are created at one time or over an extended period of time.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sheridan, second by Mr. Good, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes 4-1. Moving to item K, ZTA 2409, amendments to the Fluvanna County zoning ordinance.
Or is it L? L, we just did K.
L. ZTA 2411, amendments to the Fluvanna County zoning ordinance, amendment 2322-1 to clarify that no more than 5 lots may be created from the parent tract using the minor subdivision approval process, regardless of whether the lots are created at one time or over extended periods.
Oh, it's, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I actually put those together.
Okay, hold on here. I didn't know both
Yeah, you'll need the
presentations
page down.
were down.
There
There
you
we
go.
go, okay.
Okay, so this, Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is basically making the same changes to the zoning ordinance, section 22-22-1. It's again, same reasoning, to eliminate a workaround and also to address the court case, which said the 5-year standard was an overreach per the Dillon rule. If you want to go ahead and go to the next page, Eric. So for background, so what happened here was on the other ZTA, the public hearing by the planning commission was held in December. And we were waiting to get this one done and hold these together. The problem is this public hearing got delayed twice by the weather. That's why we didn't have it until March. So we did eventually have it in March, and in both cases, commission voted to recommend approval of these ZTAs. You go to the next one, Eric. And so again, it's the same language that was in the other ZTA, except the difference is this is for the zoning ordinance under the definitions. And again, adding the definition for parent tract, changing the definition for subdivision. And again, I'll read us the definition. The division or revision of a lot, tract, or parcel of land by any means into 2 or more lots, parcels or tracts, including residue for the purpose of recordation, transfer of ownership, lease, or building development in which any one of which lots, parcels, or tracts is less than 60 acres in area or has less than 1,500 feet of frontage or a highway maintained by the Virginia Department of Transportation. As the context requires, the term subdivision may mean both land divided, the process of division, or both. And then the other definitions being changed again, the major subdivision, that definition being changed, and the division of minor subdivision being changed, just like they were with the subdivision ordinance. I'll take any questions anyone has.
What, for a family subdivision, I assume corporations and partnerships are not allowed, is that correct?
I wouldn't. Trusts are allowed, not corporations. But the state code was amended a few years back to allow trust.
So you're saying if I set up a trust of the 5 of us, we could pass it on to all 5 of our family members?
That's
It's pretty
that's what I'm
strict language, it's not.
asking, yeah.
Yeah. That would loop a lot of people in.
So the state code says. Actually, it's optional. I don't know if we have in our county code currently do trust language. There's optional language in the state code if we wanted to allow it for trust. I don't think we have incorporated that into our county code yet.
But even if a trust was allowed, what would be the definition of that trust?
So basically it says. So a locality may include in a subdivision ordinance permitting the single division of a lot. To a member of the immediate family of beneficiaries of a trust. So it has to be immediate family of the beneficiaries of that trust. And so all trust beneficiaries must be immediate family members, so it can't be.
Oh, yeah, right.
Agree that the property should be subdivided and agree to place a restrictive covenant on the property that will not be transferred to a non-immediate family member for 15 years. So it's stricter than our period of time. So that's optional language we could add to our family subdivision. Okay.
Which there may be benefits for doing that, but that's doesn't change the impact.
So right now, if a member of the public has their property in a trust and they want to divide it, it has to come out of the trust and into a named individual, or do we consider the executor of the trust as the owner?
If it's in a trust, we would need to add language to our county code to allow that. So that's something we can consider. I don't think that question situations come up here. It's coming up in other localities I worked in, and we had that
Yeah.
language. So that's something we can suggest to the planning commission that they.
There's really no reason not to do that.
It was added a few years back, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so it's a pretty easy change to the ordinance to allow that. Because more people are putting their properties in trust.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Question? All right, thanks, sir. We'll open up the public hearing. Anybody with any questions, please keep them the board in 5 minutes. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Anybody have any questions, thoughts? All right, we go on to the question.
I move that the Board of Supervisors approves ETA 2411, an ordinance to amend and reordain the code of the County of Fluvanna, Virginia by amending sections 22-22-1 to clarify that no more than 5 lots may be created from the parent tract using the minor subdivision approval process, regardless of whether the lots are created at one time or over an extended period of time.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Goode, all in favor?
I'm gonna vote aye on this one because I am struggling between the two. And so since I didn't want to abstain from one or the other, I'm just gonna vote aye to split my
Chair
vote.
votes aye, 5-0.
What an opportunity you were afforded there with.
Yeah. It's a struggle.
All right, item down.
Struggle is a real.
2-1 to define agritourism activity and to authorize such activity by right in the A1 zone district, Mr. Whitten and Mr.
So we have a proposed zoning text amendment to amend the county code, specifically sections 22-22-1 and 22-4-2.1. Two objectives here: to define agritourism activity and to authorize agritourism as a by right use in A1. Currently, the code does not define agritourism or regulate it. And the definition we're proposing is taken straight from Virginia Code Section 3.2-6400. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this in March and voted 4-0 with 1 member absent to recommend approval. And what you see in front of you is the proposed changes. Again, 22-4-2.1 under A1, adding as a by right use agritourism activity. And then under 22-22-1 under definitions, adding a definition for agritourism activity, which is any activity carried out on a farm or ranch that allows members of the general public for recreational, entertainment, or educational purposes to view or enjoy rural activities, including farming, wineries, ranching, horseback riding, historical, cultural, harvest your own activities, or natural activities and attractions. An activity is an agritourism activity, whether or not the participant paid to participate in the activity. So we're making that change. The only other thing I'd point out is State of Virginia, Code of Virginia 15.2-2288.6 basically stipulates no locality should regulate the carrying out of agritourism activities unless there's a substantial impact on the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. So that is the impetus for this proposed zoning text amendment, and I'll take any questions.
You're just kidding.
It's basically having Fluvanna's code almost mirror what the state code does.
Any other questions or thoughts? All right. We will now open up to public comment. Anybody have anything, please keep it to the board and comment.
Don Rainer, 3531 Union Mills. My major question would be, what prevents something like Woodstock 3 on a farm? and bringing so that you have 2 million people coming into an area and having a concert on a farm when we can't define what agritourism is, and more importantly, what it isn't.
It's a question for the attorney, I would say.
So basically in other localities that have dealt with this, you have like. You have to have an activity. First of all, you have to have, activities on the farm where you're inviting the public to come.
Well, they were inviting the public to come and they came.
Okay. But I'm saying you have to have agricultural activities as well on the farm. It can't just be a music festival. Like you have.
Defined as agricultural.
So you need to be growing grapes. If you're a class A, class B, class C winery, you need to be growing hops. You need to be growing crops. Let's say you have, growing crops, you have a corn maze. So you need to have some kind of agritourism activity before you could have the music festival element of it.
And you still
Well,
have
they had that problem in Nelson County at Oak Ridge.
They did, they had
And
a
it-
heat festival, right? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
they first started out
I
as a
think
concert
the
series.
thing about the Locken Festival.
Yep.
Probably we think of.
But for instance, at Devil's Backbone, they have Festing, which is a big music festival. And obviously Devil's Backbone is a brewery, they have a campground there.
But Oak
So you
Ridge
do
is a
see-
multi-day concert series that brings in tens of thousands of people and creates quite a situation.
I will say the way other counties have handled it, so for instance, at King Vineyards and they had polo there on Sundays in Belmont County. And there's about 2,000-3,000 people there on Sunday on a nice day. So what they did is they required a special use permit because there were so many people that were attending. Because the number of people got so large. So if we ever get to that point, we could have a special use permit process.
But we're not doing that now.
There's not a need right now for it. So if we get to that point where we have a winery that has 3,000 people there, then we would look at adopting the SUP process.
I think you need to define what agritourism is.
I suspect state.
Well, we're using that as state definition for agritourism.
Again, we're getting, doesn't this come down to billing state? I mean, we're getting in compliance with what the state says.
Correct. And once when at King Vineyards, when they started the polo, it was by right? They started, it was maybe 100 people, and now it's a couple thousand people. So basically they're having issues, ABC issues, because people are bringing in outside alcohol. So they said, no, it has to be wine sold by King Vineyards. They had to have traffic control. They had to have, VDOT signs because it got so big. But when it first started, 15 years ago, it was small. And then, if we get to that point, it could be something that gets outside the agritourism realm, where it's so big that we are going to have to start requiring a shipping process. So I think we just have to look at it case by case basis. We do have a SUP for an event facility. So if we get, for instance, Hardware Hills has an event facility, so they're allowed to have weddings there and events there. So if we get to that part where someone wants to put in a big event facility, then we have to look, does it fall under agritourism, or is it not be so big that we require an SUP for that event facility?
So does the event facility on 620 in Fluvanna County have a special use permit?
I'm not sure where Road 620 is. What's
Rolling Road.
Rolling Road.
the Reventa? That does not. Prior planning director determined that was by right agritourism use because it's a class A winery.
Y'all are open for. I say y'all are open for a large event that I don't think you could stop in the future as it's defined currently.
It being a billing state, I don't know that we have the latitude to. Billing state basically means you gotta do what the state tells you can do or nothing different, right?
Correct. So basically, there was a law talking to the county and the plains. There's a little farm stand, and Fauquier County said you have to have an SUV. It's a farm stand, and that I think it went all the way to the Supreme Court, but definitely the Circuit Court, and they ruled no, it falls under Right to Farm Act agritourism, and basically that was probably 2010, 2011, and that's where it really opened the door, and you're seeing more and more agritourism. So now you see, like in Owl Rock County, you have wineries that have restaurants within them. They're kind of, once you got pushing the envelope even further and further, but we do have that event facility SUP. So if something gets to such a degree, we can say, no, this is no longer agritourism. You need an SUP for an event facility.
Any other public comment? Seeing none? Close the public hearing. Board, any discussions? All right, anybody want to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Supervisors approve ZTA 2501, an ordinance to amend and reordain the code of the county of Fluvanna, Virginia by amending sections 22-22-1 and 22-4-2.1 to define agritourism activity and to authorize such activity by right in the A1 zoning district.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hodge, seconded by Mr. O'Brien, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. Moving on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Hold
to-
on, I
You
did,
want to pull something?
yeah, I wanted to pull one item real quick. I won't take up too much time on this and I won't read the resolution either. But there is a road name coming up, and I will say that my wife and I are building the third house on that road. By E911 requirements, you have to name a road once you have the third house there. The county sent us a notice about a few months ago. We got together with the neighbors and came up with the name Campbell's Trace. I wanted to point out why that name was chosen and point out a few individuals on that and recognize them here this evening. So Campbell's was my wife's maternal grandparents, so my mother-in-law's parents, Bill and Louise Campbell, who many people in Fluvanna County probably know. Mr. Sheridan, I know your family knows them well. They owned the original 30 acres on which those three houses sit. So the neighbors decided that we would use the name Campbell's, and then Trace is the name of one of the neighbors that lives there whose son died very sadly of SIDS a few years ago. So that's how we came up with that name, and I wanted to recognize my wife's grandparents, Bill and Louise, this evening for the record, and I wanted to recognize our neighbor's lost son, Trace, for the record as well. So appreciate you all letting me pull that and do that. So thank you. Yeah. Do we make a separate motion for that?
No.
Okay.
Just,
Okay, I move that we accept the consent agenda presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Goode, seconded by Mr. Sheridan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, finished business. Seeing none, new business. Seeing none, move on to our second round of public comment. Anybody wishing to address the board, please do so directly to the board in 5 minutes.
First off, do I need to say my name and address?
Okay.
Yeah, this is my first time, so give me grace, everyone. Cody Davidson, 2373 Carries Creek Road. I would like to thank Eric, and I would like to thank Mike for their work in trying to address the road issue. Also, the sheriff's department for coming in as well with their speed limit sign. As that has helped monitor that speed on that traffic. As you guys have known, it's been talked about. It is a gravel road. People are driving 60 miles plus on a gravel road with kids, numerous families on that road, with people walking, riding their bikes, jogging, and has made it a very unsafe time. Even at 25 miles an hour going around some of the turns, if in a vehicle like my truck, your back end will actually come loose. So thank you for VDOT also for coming in, putting some signage on the roads as well. That has been a big process, but it was mentioned about trying to do something about the gravel, get rid of the gravel. The gravel was posing some undue hardships for everyone on the road, especially for us since we're the first house and everyone's driving by our house to get to their house. The dust is insane where it's causing us to actually have to run our air conditioning more than opening up windows on days like today, unless we want to go in and actually dust our house 24/7. It's costing us more maintenance costs as well. Just due to the fact that all the dust is getting pulled into our air conditioning units. And then also there's damage to our vehicles from the rocks that are throwing up and damaging. We just got a quote, which was over $2,000 to fix it from all the rock damage. So this is something that is pretty important to us, and I know on our street as well, it's pretty important as well. But just please keep that in the back of your guys' heads when you guys are making these decisions. It is something that is near and dear to me as I live on the street, but also to the other residents that live on this road as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Wants to speak?
Patty Rayner, 31 Union Mills Road, and I guess I don't understand the cost associated with the sidewalk in Fort Union. And I mean, I guess there's a certain amount of money that comes from VDOT, but I am sure that there are contractors right here in this county that you could get a much more competitive price from. And I would just ask the board to consider, employing some of the businesses here to get those quotes. That sounds like robbery, a crime to charge that kind of money for a sidewalk. So honestly, that sounds crazy to me. But also I just want to talk about the taxes one more time tonight. I mean, I'll talk about it again next week too, but I know that when approving the tax rate that you all voted, for this 75 cents per hundred with saying that, you knew that it was going to go lower to equalize the tax, and that by approving a meals tax, that was going to give you the avenue to reduce that 75 cents per hundred down. So I do hope that you guys remember that that is what you voted to do, and that is the way to equalize the tax rate, among the other things that I've already talked about with the land use. We can bring it down really significantly lower if we would just enforce those. And again, I want to say, I send emails to the attorney here as well as to Eric Dahl with a lot of the details and information about this land use. And again, I didn't hear back from the attorney. I didn't hear back from Mr. Dahl, but I feel like that, what you guys feel very strongly about these other resolutions and amendments. So I would think you would want to take the same consideration for the land use laws as well. So I don't know, how we bring that up in discussion, like we did with these other codes. But I would like to see something done to make sure that we are complying, which I'm having a really hard time getting people to talk about. So maybe we can start with the town hall and we can move forward from there. But I know that we're at the end of our line here with making improvements on the tax rates. So we're kind of running out of time there. And again, you're probably going to hear from me every time I get the opportunity to bring it up. All I'm fighting for is, to enforce the rules that are in place. And also to make it fair for all of our taxpayers here in the county. Thank you.
That's what we speak. Seeing none, we'll close the second round of public comment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, we don't have a closed meeting?
Have a motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Sheridan.
No, I made it.
Made by Mr. Sheridan, second by Mr. Roberts. All in favor?
Aye. That many